Hi, everyone. Welcome to SNAPSHOTS, a physical education standards implementation video series. I'm Mary Thyssen-Milder, and I have the pleasure of serving as a state physical education specialist at the Minnesota Department of Education. A major focus of my work is to facilitate the standard development process, which involves working with physical educators from around the state, applying their expertise to develop the state standards and grade level benchmarks. Once the standards are developed, MDE works with the leadership team to design a professional development plan to prepare teachers for implementation. This video serves as the introduction to the Snapshot video series, which highlights the initial phases of standard implementation. It's my privilege to work with state leaders in the physical education field willing to volunteer their time and expertise to serve as members of the MDE Physical Education Leadership Team. The team is made up of the co-chairs of the MDE Physical Education Standard Development Team, executive board members of the Minnesota Society of Health and Physical Education, or MnSHAPE, leaders in adaptive physical education representing Mde, and representatives of higher education. The names on this slide identify both past and current members. Standard implementation is a huge process. The leadership team developed this visual that portrays the complexity of the process, and then we begin to break it down in doable pieces. The visual begins with identifying the things that drive all decisions your local standard committee does, such as knowing your local program purpose, mission, vision, and values, just like considering who your learners are, what are their characteristics, their interests, prior learning, and prerequisite skills. And you also have to look at all the factors you're dealing with that you may or may not have control over, such as the amount of space you have, the time allocated in the school schedule, equipment, and number of staff and students. From there, we move on to taking a deep dive into the standards and benchmarks and how to best organize them across your school year. This slide represents a breakdown of our 3-year professional development plan, breaking down the visual in the previous slide. We initiated the plan in 2018. The first year, we looked at our standards themselves to make them meaningful to us. We called this creating a shared understanding, so that all of us have the same interpretation of what standards are asking the students to know and be able to do. That's followed by developing a shared understanding of our benchmarks. We looked at the changes that happened between our old standards and new, and then identified new academic language and learning progressions across grade levels in our new standards. Next, we deconstructed the benchmarks and began bundling. We began year 2 in 2019. In this training year, we went beyond bundling and began to develop performance outcomes for a bundle. This led us into designing appropriate assessments for the performance outcomes. During this year, we discovered that this conversation became a sticking point. Questions about assessments and grading began to dominate the conversation. So we decided to stop at this point and talk about best practices in assessment and grading. It was our intention that in the following year, 3, we would discuss how to put it all together by addressing how to organize, distribute, scaffold, or spiral this content across the allocated time, for example, a unit, and to plan the lessons by identifying objectives or learning targets, creating formative assessment plans, identifying activities and making adaptations or modifications, and creating cues or questions and supports. That was the plan. Then we were interrupted midway in the 2019 year by the COVID-19 pandemic, which put a dramatic pause in our training plan. We are now 22 months later. The COVID-19 pandemic has delayed the implementation of the 2018 academic standards of physical education until the 2023 to 24 school year. Our plan is to continue with the Year 2 professional development series. However, it's clear to us that the pandemic has impacted our teaching dramatically and that refreshers in the foundational topics we covered in Year 1 may be needed. As a result, This video series was created to provide a short snapshot of them. It's the intention of each video to be a short, concise review and be available for a teacher online at any time that's convenient on either the MDE or MnShape websites. A teacher may watch them in order or go directly to a desired topic. They can be viewed individually or in teacher teams. This slide identifies the videos available. A short introduction to the series provides an overview. That is this video. Then we begin with personalizing the standards, which is broken down into 3 short videos that review the importance of standards, introduces the new Minnesota Physical Education Standards, and breaks the standards down one by one. Videos on academic language, learning progressions, deconstructing benchmarks, and bundling benchmarks are also available. One of the major resources we've utilized during our standards development planning is the Mde Standards Portal. This portal was created by members of the Mde Academic Standards team to assist schools as they go through this complicated process of building standards-based systems. Information from the portal is integrated throughout the trainings. This completes the introduction to the Physical Education Standards Implementation video series. Once again, the intention of this series is to provide refreshers for the professional development topics covered in our first year of standard implementation trainings. Special thanks to the members of the Mde Physical Education Leadership Team on the development of the content and their continued guidance in supporting quality physical education in Minnesota. For more information on future professional development opportunities, stay tuned to the Mde Physical Education webpage or the MnShape website.